Hi, my name is Jesse James and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a little bit of a different one for you, and not only because I'm recording this intro at my home office with the home supervisor socks back there, but because it is the continuation of me talking about my trip to Milwaukee that I took in late October. This video is actually going to be very specific on talking about the history of at headquarters. While I was up there, I got to do a behind the scenes tour of different historical facts of the place. Got access to go up there since I was technically an employee on property, be able to go around and look at some stuff, and I wanted to share that with you. The first little bit is actually going to be about kind of Milwaukee in the state of that I visited at. This place right now is just like completely under construction, as I was talking about earlier. Like even down here, this is the entrance to get into the building that's like not the 5700 building that we're in now, but the second building. You have to come in through here, sketchy elevators. Can't even go directly up to the 6th floor, but you gotta come over to this building, go up to I think Louis Ness, I could be wrong on that, but essentially to the floor where he was Willie G's right-hand man, to the floor where he did all, like, had to himself, where he set up and worked and said it was his big play area. And now, on the 5th floor,
Floor 5.
kind of look like this. Completely torn out and empty. I imagine this was kind of what it must have been like during his time, with there just being nothing really up here. But this was his little play area where he was setting stuff up and learning. Nice little plaque that you see in a lot of the Harley shops, but that's the real one right there. What you doing down there? You got any CVORRs or award-winning race bikes? I'll probably never actually know what's in there. Okay, I will never know what's in there, but I see it. Got a nice little area up here too for during the reconstruction where people are coming for lunch now. Starting to get set up, but they got all these cool little spots like up here. I forget, it's not Lego, I don't think, but I forget what it is, but a nice little mural. Here's the things I really like. Oh, hello there, automatic light. Got some cool bikes on display from over the years, showing you like the inside of it. What an ultra classic looks like for your gas tank, fuel pump, inside of the fairing. Fat Boy made entirely of Legos. It's an amazing bike right here. Down into the components. This is the Sturgis model, and just showing you everything. And then one of the most, like, this is where the Lowrider ST comes from. This, the FXRT. Whenever you want to talk about bikes being a piece of art, this is one that definitely talks for itself. It's just incredible though. As I mentioned in my last Milwaukee video, at the time that I was visiting, one of the biggest surprises to me was that there was really no one up at headquarters for the longest period of time since the COVID closures. And so for our current president, who's, well, CEO / president, he's one of his big things is getting people back to work at headquarters, bringing everything back to Juneau Avenue. And so while I was there, I was getting to see a lot of the construction and stuff happening. And so like essentially the outside of the buildings were there, but everything was pretty much just left abandoned, which actually does lead to the next section, which is the tour of the building itself. So the person that was conducting the tour is a fellow named Steve Rotman. He works up there at headquarters, and he was one of the few people that after lockdown was let up, he was one of the few people that was brought back and said, hey, you can't work remote, come back up here. And so the way that he told the story was that essentially for the first little bit, it was just, you go, you do your work, you leave. But after so long of being there and no one around, he started finding some old historical photos and just seeing what he could match up. And over the course of doing that, it ended up leading to the Juneau Avenue, I think, Harley-Davidson historical tour of the headquarters itself, which he got to take us on part of and give some of the behind the scenes, which is what I'm going to show you guys now.
That parking lot is where that factory would have been back in the day. That one-story little structure there, that cream building, that would have been where our first testing facility would have been back in the day. I guess the roads here were not that great back in the early 1900s, so they did a lot of their testing of motorcycles right here on the railroad tracks. And so the test facility is right there in that little cream building, and then again they would just kind of ride on the train tracks here because that was the best spot to do the riding and stuff.
So this photo here is Willie G in his R&D section, and how they were able to find the specific location of this one is actually based off of the windows, the center pole back there, and then a little bit of newer brick being laid to the left of where you see that door. And of course, it also helped that Willie G later confirmed, yeah, that was the location of where I did my R&D and where that photo was taken. The funny thing about that photo is they are actually posing for like what would be a joke right there. So if you look on the bike with the ball and chain on it, that is Willie G's bike, and he said that even though we were doing some R&D on using his bike, he wanted to make sure no one could take his bike, so he locked a ball and chain on there. And again, I find stuff like that funny because it shows that even these people back in history that we revere and whatnot have a lot of the same humor as us as modern day riders.
You've seen that we have part of the property in the back here is now dedicated to Central Standard Distillery. So in 2026, they're going to be ready with a customer-facing opportunity. It's a Milwaukee-based company, so it's going to be a good fit for us and a great way for customers to come here and give them something extra to do. But as they were cleaning up that space, they said, hey, the neat thing about being Steve Robin today, if people don't know what to do with something, they call me. So this shelf was over there, and they had a bunch of these flats that go back to 1936. So as you can see here in the drawer, if you guys come around, you can see this drawer. You can see the, Yep, and so this drawer system is filled with just how many designs and logos over time, and so I just think it's such a treasured piece. This second floor in this building's history largely has been allocated to engineers over time, and so I thought it would have been very meaningful to bring it back home to where engineers would have worked to develop these back in the day. So. All right, so this photo over here is none other than Willie G. Davidson. And a lot of people haven't seen this photo before, but it doesn't look like him exactly. Yep. And so well, I'll get to that here in a second. But yes, this is right here where I'm standing. This is where Willie G's first desk would have been in 1963. While we had stylish motorcycles prior to 1963, he was the start of the styling department. And a lot of people might think like, oh, Willie G, his last name's Davidson, that's why he got his job and his role here. That's not the case at all. We were very lucky to have Willie G and the skills he brought to the table. His first year out of high school, he went to UW-Madison, just like William S. Harley did. Decided that wasn't for him. The four-year traditional school was not for him. And he got an advertisement for something called the Art Institute, and that's where the best and the brightest in the auto industry were going to get their degrees on how to customize and make the cars of the future. And so it was out in Los Angeles, and so he talked to his parents and sent him out there. That was the easy part. The hard part is actually graduating. Graduation rate's only 5% in the Art Institute. And so Willie G actually graduated from the Art Institute and came to work for the motor company a couple years after the fact. And so again, you talk about a skilled individual that spent 49 years of his career here at Harley-Davidson Motor Company. How to find this photo? So this photo, I knew with the wall being on an angle that it was on the train track side somewhere. In this photo here, through this window, if you zoom in, you can see the rooftop right in the window here and the manufacturing company a little clearer in the digital photo, but that's That was another clue. And then from there, so I knew it was over here somewhere. And then right here, if you zoom in on the bricks, the brick pattern only matches right here out of this whole exact wall. This is the only spot it matches exactly. So, and then last summer, when I got a call that Willie G wanted to take the Willie G historical tour, and I had both fingers and toes crossed that I got everything right, Willie G said, "Yep, this is where my first desk was." So I was happy I got that all. I could have started with him, I guess, but we went the long way around the barn. So. But the neat thing is that like Harley-Davidson, his daughter, still has this drafting board. She has that arm, the ashtray, the phone. So someday, hopefully in the future, we continue to do these historical tours with people coming back. It'd be cool to set that all up and come take a picture at Willie G's first desk, like his actual first desk at the company would be amazing. So, I mentioned last year, well, I'll mention this here real quick. I have a graduating photo of all of our technicians through time. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. I pick one from every year from 1917 all the way to 2024. And it is so neat to be able to hit the next button and see all the changing faces over time. Willie G looks just like our service technicians come to school here in 1963, all clean cut and buttoned up. But by the late 1960s, Willie G kind of follows the template of the graduating photos of students. All of a sudden the hair starts getting a little bit longer in the 1960s. And in the 1970s, here comes the facial hair, and I could literally pluck a graduating student from 1978, pluck them in 2025, same person. So I found her look, and we were sticking with it. So that's evidence through the photos. But yeah, we showed this picture to Willie, and we're like, "Oh, that's you." And his, I love this call from Willie. He's like, "Oh, that's me before I went bad." So that was pretty cute. It's still a little saying, yep. Here is obviously I would consider our most famous picture that we have as a company. I'm guessing that most everybody has this hanging in their dealership. It's on our website. It is certainly the thing that gets used most often. I wanted to find where this picture was as part of the historical research. It took me about 3 weeks to find where this was because these doors are not here any longer, but I knew it was here somewhere at Juneau Ave. Now, you'll quickly realize that Steve Robin should open his eyes because we were about 5 feet away from where this photo was taken. So someone down the road was trying to help me future self out with like, "Hey, you're pretty close to the spot." But this photo was taken in 1912. Motorcycle Illustrated was the name of the publication. Came here to Milwaukee to interview the 4 founders to figure out what was going on. Why were we growing so fast as a company, and to get some insights. The next picture after this one is with them out of their tough guy pose, and they're kind of smiling, the hands are out of pockets. It's a great picture from a little bit lower angle, but this one is pretty heavily doctored. So like most of you in your dealerships, you have the one with like dark windows, the awnings actually taken out. All that was done by hand. That's before any computers were in existence. They actually modified this picture very early on to take some of those liberties. But I love this photo even more because you can see the houses that were in this little spot over here. You can see the houses in the reflection. The staircase behind me, you could see that we just walked down in the window. And the shop entrance, you can see the apply here for work. So like so much more detail is picked up out of this picture. But people that came to visit the factory, we advertised out everywhere. We wanted families and dealers and everybody to come here to come tour the factory. They would have opened that office entrance door and landed right here in this space. So it's pretty special for me to be able to continue that. Over 100 years later, we're in that same space that so many would have landed back in the day. But this would have been where the office door was. This brick is the original with the awning holes right here. Again, the stairwell that you can see between, that would have been taken right there. And then there's the other awning with the shop entrance door right here. Arthur Davidson was 5'6". This platform was not here back in the day when this photo was taken. So Arthur's head rim would have come up to about right here in the photo, and then the 4 founders would have been standing right there for this picture. So I definitely love the spot. Again, it took me about 3 weeks to find. Actually 1911 when this part of the building was completed. So we're gonna head down the stairs here, but just know you're walking in the footsteps of the 4 founders. You can look down to the metal and you can see the footsteps through time have been kind of worn into the metal here. So enjoy your walk down. Let's go.
Wow.
Yeah, this is one of them, but so back in the 1980s, we had a contract company in here making updates to Juneau Ave, And as contract companies do, like, oh, hey, while we're here, we can fix this, and oop, we're done with that, but why don't you just sign here, we can fix that. And so this staircase came up for debate, and they're like, hey, your staircase, we noticed it's not up to code. We can put a new one in if you'd like us to. Willie G caught wind of that and said, if anybody touches the staircase that my grandfather and the 4 founders walked up and down every day to get to work, they are fired. So Willie G has done a lot for us over time, including saving the staircase. I guess there's a replica of this staircase at his personal home. Again, such a meaningful piece for a property. Totally unassuming, right? But now you can say that you've been down the staircase. I don't bring everybody down here, so hopefully you all enjoyed that. We got one more stop that's that we walked on. That was built in the 1990s. If you wanted to get from one building to the next by staying warm or not snowed on or whatever, that would have been through the tunnel back in the day. Now, as novel as this is, and I just gave that retirees tour on Friday. There's a guy who worked here for 27 years, and he was barred from ever coming here to go through the tunnel. So when I say that, like, this is, you know, a special opportunity, hopefully you feel that. With the tunnel, though, I talked to one retiree who worked here in 1967, and his job, because parts were over there in that building, he would be right here and he would capture parts from the guy who had to go fetch them and then bring them up to the final assembly line when they needed this or that part. So as cool as the tunnel is, there's one person out in the world that would like to never ever see the tunnel ever again in his life, right? So, but so here's the offer. If you want to, you do not need to. You can walk all the way to that side of the tunnel and then come on back. So again, just
Oh, like it's sketchy as all get out, but there was no way I was missing out on this. This is so cool.
Are we gonna turn around?
Well, probably at the end. Oh, shit. So if you've made it to this point in the video, on some level, you've got some interest in either Harley-Davidson or sales. If you have a question that you want to ask me, put "Hey Jesse" down in the comments and ask your question, and I'll put the best ones here at the end of a video. One of the things that got brought up in the tour that I was not recording during the time is we're on the 4th floor of the West building. And so back in the 80s, this part of the building, while now is just conference, this section through here is actually where all the parts would have came through. And these lines on the floor that are super faded, it's actually like the assembly lines, how stuff was moved through. These, what are now conference rooms, was parts rooms. And it's just super cool because there's everything through here has a little bit of history. Now, as I said, it's kind of the conference rooms over there, and then big old auditorium here on this side. Apparently during the dealer forum, that's where a lot of the talking happened, and Willie G himself came in, which would have been super cool to be here. But like on the walls, got twin cams setting up through there, fully blacked out. 110, wonder if that came off of one of the S variants. But literally every section of this place has history just all over, and it's super cool. That was one of the coolest things that I've gotten to do since working for Harley-Davidson, was visiting, seeing that behind the scenes, getting to talk and with Steve and several of the other dealers as we were walking around history. Like, there's no other way to put it, but it is just pure history. So it was super cool. I'm glad that I got to record parts of it to show you guys and take photos. But yeah, that's gonna do it for my Milwaukee trip and this video. If you've enjoyed this video, consider giving a like. And if you want to see more like behind the scenes of not only like what it's like working at a Harley-Davidson dealership, but just like my personal journey working for Harley-Davidson, consider subscribing, because that's what I do here. But more than anything, thank you for watching.